Hello, welcome back. I just wanted to come on today and do a bit of a sit down chitty chat, to be honest. I feel like we haven't chatted for ages. Now I know this is not exactly true, but I think because I've been doing a lot of like my sit down chats, verbal diarrhea stuff over on my podcast, I haven't really had a chance to sit down on here and have a chat. But what I've wanted to talk about for weeks really, I've talked about before with Chris, but this time I wanted to just come on and talk about cyclical living and seasonal living and kind of working with our rhythm and our flow and how like that's completely changed everything for me. So yeah, let's get going. One of the biggest kind of shifts for me is how I work, plan, live my like day-to-day life, and how I now work with my body and my cycle and my hormones rather than against it, because that's what I did for so long. And to be honest, it just was not really working for me, I'm not gonna lie. I would beat myself up a lot. I just didn't understand my body very well. Was learning to work with my cycle and working with my cycle rather than against it. And basically, a few years back, somebody said to me, you know so much about your body, but you don't know anything about your cycle. And I didn't. I had no idea. I'd been on contraception for many, many years. I only came off it, obviously, when I had Oliver. And I just didn't know. I didn't know when my periods was. I never tracked ovulation. I didn't even do that when I was getting pregnant with all. I didn't even know, to be honest. If I'm being brutally honest, I didn't know how the cycle worked. I didn't know there was 4 stages. I didn't know when I was ovulating. And I just thought, yeah, I really need to learn more. And we started reading some books in the book club. Now, if you've ever seen one of my YouTube videos before, my book reviews, I don't keep my books. I don't solicitively give them away to people. So I don't have them. And to be honest, I actually can't remember which books had an impact on me. And I don't really know where it all started, but I do know 3 years ago I decided to come off contraception, use natural contraception, and basically work with what I've got, what I'm dealing with, and not the 24-hour clock that we've kind of created and how all our days normally set up by. And that has just been so bloody good for me. So I just wanted to share it again because I want to talk about it more, because if we can all work like that, it really does benefit us and it really makes us go gentle on ourselves. I think that's the biggest thing for me, whereby I would beat myself up if I was feeling down at the back end of my cycle, or because I didn't know I was at the back end of my cycle. I just thought, oh, I'm being lazy, or I'm being tired, or what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? I could do this last week and now I don't feel like it, and really kind of go hard on myself. And I think some people can push through them, which is great for a certain period of time, but then also that you run out of that steam, and our bodies naturally as females are not designed for that. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not a specialist. I'm just wanting to talk to you about what I've learned about my cycle and learning about myself and how useful it has been for me to do that. So I do have some books. Here we go. Sacred Season, Kirsty Gallagher. And this is actually more about seasonal living and how we work with the seasons. But our menstrual cycle and the moon cycle and all the cycles are very much similar to this. Like, we can base them on each other. And in fact, I think it's quite useful to think of our menstrual cycle as all the seasons, because we can understand them very easily than trying to remember all the names. Because some of the names I'd never heard of before. So I think that's really useful way. So as I go through the video, I will chat about them as a season. And I think that's really useful to think about them like that. So this is really, really useful. There's obviously some like paganism and Wicca kind of things going on in here. But this was definitely a bit of an introduction to me kind of getting a little bit more interested in its cyclical living. And also The Hustle Cure. A great book. There is a whole chapter, definitely. There's a whole chapter on your menstrual cycle and how to use it and harness it to your advantage and literally plan your calendar around it. Now that was a light bulb moment for me. And I definitely did speak about this on mine and Chris's video, which I'll link below, whereby I think in some countries like France, some companies are very forward focused and they actually allow women to take some time off before their period. So in the back end of their cycle, in their winter, when they're not performing at their best, they're allowed to take some time off because that allows them to rest and reset, and then they can go harder again when the time is right, when the summer comes. And this is all about that, like using your calendar, literally putting your period, your ovulation onto your calendar allows you to get the most out of it. Because like I said, as I go through all the phases, I'm going to tell you what to do in each phase and stage, and it's going to be, well, trust me, just give it a go. Give it a go. Also, I've just finished the book, Manifest Like a Mother. Great book, by the way. Bloody great book. But she also, Francesca Amber, the queen of law of attraction, if you ask me, she has got a full chapter on going with the flow, it's called. So literally going with the flow. So she really also talks about the benefits of understanding your cycle and working with it. So let's get started. Okay, so if we don't know, we have 4 parts to our cycle. Our menstrual cycle normally is around 28 days, give or take, the exact same as the moon, which is weird to me and also magical. So that is our cycle, with the first day being the start of your period. So if you have a period, that is the start of the cycle. So once you see your period, I'm always like, woohoo, happy days, the good days are coming. It is still classed as the inner winter, so the first couple of days of your period, you may still feel kind of a little bit inward and maybe a little bit introvert. I tend to kind of start pretty good. You know, once I kind of get my period, I'm like, yes, I'm excited, which is so strange, isn't it? Because when you're younger, you never want to see your period. Like, it's a bad thing to see your period. So at what point in life did it all change for me when I just switched it around and became that weird period lady that's like, yay, I'm bleeding. Very strange. Anybody who's not comfortable about talking about period, sorry, a lot of TMI there. But there you go, it's a very natural thing. It's okay, it's all good, and it's the good times. So you see that flow. Now, I'm relatively lucky. I just get a bleed. I don't really get a lot of other symptoms. I don't really get anything else. So I'm very lucky, and it's normally only a couple of days, 3 days, and it's medium to probably light. So I am very lucky on that. I know not everybody has that, but I'm just giving you my experience and my kind of knowledge on how it works for me. Some people do not need to know about my period, but hey ho, you're getting it whether you like it or not. Oh my goodness, I'm just getting a repressed memory now. I listened to a podcast and I think it was with Ranji Chatterjee. Is that what he's called? Dr. Ranji Chatterjee? I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. Whoops. And in fact, I think it was him and Dr. Mindy Feltz. And he was talking about his period and talking about like, when he speaks to his daughter and when's the best time to kind of harness all that and really understanding a woman's cycle. So although, you know, we think this is just a video for a woman, or talking about this from a woman's point of view, it's actually really useful if men understand this stuff, because if they understand it, they're going to get the best out of the females in their life. They're going to be able to speak to them at the right time and not get a bitchy, snappy old woman at home, and that's what's really important. So I do really think, like, if you've got maybe boys that are maybe gonna get married or, you know, gonna live with girls or have friends that are girls or work with girls, like, it is really important to know that, okay, maybe if you work with a girl, you're not gonna know her cycle. It's probably not gonna be appropriate to understand that. But what I'm saying is, it's useful to understand that women are 28 days. Our hormones change throughout the whole month. It's not like men that the testosterone's 24 hours a day and pretty regular. Women, we are like this all the time. So it's best to flow. Literally, like Francesca says, go with the flow. It's going to be way easier if you do that than trying to swim against the tide. That's all I'm saying, my friends. That's all I'm saying. Also, in your menstrual stage, you can get a lot of, in your menstrual stage, there can be a lot of insight and clarity that comes through. Lots of things that feel like you kind of getting the answer to. And now I'm just going to go back a little bit. So if you imagine that that is the first day, once you've kind of got to the back end of the cycle, which is where like you're a bit grumpy, moody, waiting for that, things can feel really heavy and negative. So I think once you hit that day one, you're kind of going back around again. So things kind of feel lighter and feel like sometimes things might be playing on your mind and you might not have the answer. But come them first early days of your cycle, things do seem to feel easier to understand and make decisions, and like I said, just more insight and clarity seems to happen around that first part of your cycle, particularly because you may have been sitting heavy with some of the things at the back end of the cycle. So that's what's kind of happening at the front end of the cycle. So for me, I'm always like, yes, period's coming, we're on the up. So is Chris now as well. He's like, yes, we're out of the dark days. We're moving on up now, baby. We're on the up. Let's go. Let's ride that roller coaster. So then we move on to the follicular stage, which is kind of like spring. So that's where we're moving into now. We're moving into the spring. And that leads right up to ovulation, which is around day 15 ovulation. So obviously it depends on how long your period is, and then you move into this next phase, which is kind of things, like I said, it's like things ramping up. It's not quite ovulation when you're like absolute peak performance, but you are on the upward trajectory into that phase. So you're kind of just moving out of the fog and kind of like the winter, you're coming out of there and kind of preparing and ready to go, ready to hit summer. So this is a really good time to think about planning, think about having fun, being creative, coming up with anything new and exciting in this stage is really good to kind of get things into place, because you're going to feel momentum's going to feel good. So you're good, anything that you're kind of enjoying and you kick starting, that will be very useful to start using it in this phase. Generally as well, you're going to feel more socially outward and less like you was previous. So this is really good time as well in these days to plan social events, seeing friends, even like your exercise and things like that. You may be able to kind of ramp that up a little bit more. You just might generally feel like you've got more energy to be able to do more movement, and generally just feeling like you're going to be much stronger. Thinking back to the podcast I mentioned, Dr. Mindy Phelps, she is fantastic. And I listened to a podcast where she spoke to a female boxer, an American boxer, and she was saying that if she could schedule fights when she was ovulating, she would be at her best. And knowing that if the opponent was not ovulating and was in maybe like the luteal stage, she would have the upper hand naturally hormonally, because she would be at her best. And she also mentioned that you're more prone to injuries if you push yourself too much when you're not in the right phase and stage. That to me was incredible. I just thought that that's so good, and that also really helps me with just, I'm not an athlete obviously, but generally just if my workouts, if I'm like performing at my best in kind of these days, in the spring summer days, great. But when it comes to winter and autumn, if I'm not feeling like that, then that's okay. Like that's just because I'm feeling like I need to rest, and I maybe need to do things more inwardly, and maybe just kind of do a little bit more self-care than I would have done in the previous part of the cycle. And that to me was really reassuring, that I could just kind of let go and relax a little bit more into these things, rather than just beating myself up all the time and being like, well, I could do this last week, I could lift this weight last week, like I felt motivated to do it, and this week I feel tired. That's okay. Give your body what it needs. Do what it's telling you to do. Like it's a very clever machine. Like if we could just learn to use it, work with what we've got, makes life so much easier. Let's be fair. So then moving into part 3 is ovulation. And I've got a bit of bad news about ovulation. It lasts for 3 days, 48 hours or something crazy. So it's bonkers that like our best time, our most peak performance is only for a few days. So although we have 4 parts to our cycle, it isn't evenly portioned. Mother Nature was not that good to us. And that's a little bit of a kick in the teeth, and I hate that for us. But hey ho, we've got to deal with the cards we've been dealt and use that to our advantage. So if you know when you ovulate, schedule things into the diary like I mentioned. Try and get things that you know. If you know you're going to perform at your best in a work meeting, if you can get that around then, brilliant, even better. If you know that you can go harder on your workouts, meet friends and be a bit more sociable, and know that you're going to want to spend more time with them rather than possibly wanting to go home early or feeling tired or just generally not wanting to socialise with people. If you can work it around them days, happy bloody day, that's all I'm saying. So all in all, that's when I genuinely feel at my happiest, when I'm ovulating. I'm just generally nicer to Chris, poor Chris. And also people say if you can schedule dates as well, like if you can get out and date around that time as well, like you're going to be performing way better or at the back end of your cycle. But generally you are naturally more attractive, you're more outgoing, you're more sociable. Like I literally generally even think my hair's better when I'm ovulating. Like I don't know what goes on, but I have bad hair days when it's the back end of my cycle. When I'm ovulating, I'm like, hey, look at my hair, this is wonderful. My hair tells you where I am in my cycle, I'm sure of it. I've never read anything about that before. I've never heard anybody else talk about that, but I am sure my hair, chef's kiss when I'm ovulating. It's like the best time to make all your plans if you can. Think about it. It's not the first part in terms of day 1. It's from your follicular and your ovulation. That is the best part of what we can work with. That is go time. Them periods are go time. Then you move to your luteal stage after ovulation, and then that's back downhill again, moving towards your periods. And they are slow time. So first part, go time, second part, slow time. Yeah, luteal stage, which works from day 17 right until your period. And that just needs to generally be slow everything down again. As little stress as possible. I mean, we have life, so I'm not going to say no stress, but if you could put less stress under your body. Again, I have heard Mindy Phelps talking about fasting and how it's not a good time to do fasting at that period because your body just can't take that type of stress. Same with maybe heavy, strong workouts or intense working out. That is not a good time to do that because your body is just not at its peak performance. So just go gentle on yourself if you can. If that works and you can fit that into life, that's what I recommend. Just ease yourself in, maybe earlier nights, bubble baths, time on yourself, like whatever works for you. That's what I've found, that is very useful for me to just make sure that I am doing whatever I can to feel my best. And of course, we start all over again. We just keep doing it. We are cyclical beings. We are not linear. Life is not straightforward. Wouldn't it be lovely if it was, but it isn't. It's very much like, I like to think of it more like a spiral. We've talked about this before and how people see time, and I imagine it more like a spiral whereby we are moving but improving and growing rather than just going around in like the same Groundhog Day. I like to imagine that we kind of, by gathering this information and this knowledge on ourselves, we can use it at every cycle to our advantage and just get better and better at knowing ourselves and working with what we've got. Like today's video, the lighting has dropped, hasn't it, since we've been talking, so I hope it's not been too distracting. Lovely to chat to you all, and if you like this video, please give me a like and a subscribe. See you again soon. Bye bye.